robots that can reason, underhand AI training, and a new time zone for the moon. These are just some developments that I'd like to catch up on. Welcome to the Handy Tips Guide. ChatGPT has moved into the real world with the Figure 01 robot. Now, ChatGPT, everyone's been using it. It's very intelligent technology, and it's very good for answering our questions and doing all sorts of things. It really is fantastic in its capabilities. But our interactions with it are purely through a keyboard, really. You type your question and it gives you a reply. But what if that technology can be used with robots in the real world? Now, this is what OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, and also Figure AI, a company that produces robots, have decided to find out. So they've partnered together to combine their two technologies to create a robot that can interact with us with that intelligence from ChatGPT. Now, you might not know too much about Figure AI because they're quite a new company. They've recently received a lot of investment from Amazon, from Nvidia, and also from Microsoft. So all these big tech giants are seeing this company as very important. And their goal is to produce robots, not just single task robots, but robots that are for commercial use, household use even, robots that can perform a variety of tasks. And they've produced a humanoid robot, the Figure 01, and they put in the ChatGPT technology in it. And what it's got the capability to do is it's got sensors so that it can see objects and it can identify them. It's got oral sensors, so it can hear commands and interpret those. And it's got the ability to reason. And so all of these technologies together, working together, means that you have got a robot that can function in the real world, that you can interact with in a very human-like way. So let's take a look at what it can do.
Hey, Figure 1, what do you see right now?
I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby with your hand on the table.
Great, can I have something to eat?
Sure thing.
Great. Can you explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Great. So, based on the scene right now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great. Can you put them there?
You're welcome. If there's anything else you need help with, just let me know.
And he just moves away without saying goodbye or anything. Okay, so that was really interesting there, because what you see is the man, he asked the Figure 01 that he'd like something to eat. He says, I'm hungry, I'd like something to eat. And the robot, it identifies from the objects in front of it, by looking at them, it identifies what is the edible item, which is the apple. And so you've got that interaction there. That's very clever. You've got the fact that the robot can see. What's also very good is, I think, the choice of voice. It's a very friendly and natural, and it's not too formal. And also, you can see that the programmers, they put in the word fillers that humans use, like and ums. So it makes it sound a little bit more human-like. And that's so important for making them more relatable to us as humans. And I'm going to come back to that with a little story later on. But you can see that there, that's a big development. Now, we do actually have robots of a form in households at the moment. So if you've got something like an Alexa smart speaker, this is a speaker, you talk to it and it responds to you. But if you have your smart speaker connected up to a light bulb, which I once did, or some other device, you can ask your speaker to to turn the item on or interact with it in some way. And so what you're getting there is the robot interacting with your real world environment. But what makes this more interesting is, of course, robots are coming. Of course, robots are being developed. You know that Tesla, they are producing their robot. And so the idea is going to be to produce a robot that is suitable for households. No doubt it's going to be the affluent who get them first, the rappers, the rock stars, anybody who's interested in getting one of these robots. But the clever part of this robot is it's that it's got the ability to reason, to identify the objects in front of it, and then make calculated decisions. And a practical way this might work could be if you told your robot, or if you told the figure 01, hey, could you tidy up the downstairs? And then it goes downstairs and it looks at all the objects, it surveys the environment around it, and it decides what needs tidying up, what needs to be put away, what needs to be put in the rubbish bin. And so that's going to be very clever. And this is going to be a way that we will find these robots useful in our households, helping us with chores, helping us in the future. So it's a very interesting development. And what it also signifies is that you've got OpenAI effectively licensing their AI technology to this company. And no doubt you're going to see it licensing this technology to many other companies. And so whilst it has partnered with Microsoft, Microsoft doesn't own OpenAI. OpenAI has got this potential to become just about the biggest company in big tech. So the figure 01, it looks very interesting, and I wonder when it's going to be coming out as a practical product. I'd like to see it. Microsoft can bring your photos to life with its new AI technology. Now, in a research paper, Microsoft has shared the results of its developments on something called VASA-1. It is a method for taking a still picture and then adding an audio clip to it and then animating that picture, making it seem very lifelike and synchronize with the audio message. And you can input different facial expressions and you can manipulate it in different ways. So let's take a look at what it can do at the moment.
So, sometimes nothing happens and sometimes everything happens all at once and you just gotta deal with it. And it's also just strange to both be extremely worried about different things and have your anxiety levels like peak.
Very good. Right, let's try this one here.
The first thing we need to look at is the letter H, so the sound at the beginning. It depends what country you're from, but many native languages have a problem with putting too much tightness in the
more.
But you can imagine I have a lot of questions. So I'd love to begin with you firstly, just because I read that you started out in advertising and now you run a wellness business.
Now, looking at those, what do you think? For me, at first glance, they do look very realistic, but I can identify the slight jerkiness, and to me, they're not quite perfect. Not that they would be, but what Microsoft is touting them for is being used for a new type of avatar, personal avatars. If we are all moving into the metaverse, that's a word that's not used so much at the moment, but in the future, when we've all got our AI glasses, our AR glasses, we are going to want a physical representation of our real selves. And so if we can have an avatar that looks like us and moves like us, that's going to be really good. So this is how it works. You provide it with a single image. Then you can provide an audio clip, and then you can give it some control signals, which is likely the facial expression or movement or mood or sentiment that you want it to have. And then VASA-1 will add them all together and then create one of these videos that we have just seen. So it's going to be a very easy, straightforward process to do that. And then if we see here, we can see how that still image is influenced by the control signal or the sentiment that you're giving it. Let's try.
I do stand-up all the time. I'm a stand-up comedian, improviser by trade. You had me on one of the most fun experiences of my life as I was on the show in Chicago, and I attempted to eat 2 Italian beef sandwiches in under a minute. I do stand-up.
Right. And what we see there is the same face, the same voice, but it is animated in a very different way to reflect the expression that is being requested. Very clever. This has a more practical use again with the avatars. So you could use it for your own personal avatars, or it might be a computer program that has a digital avatar and it provides it with a face. So now you'll be able to see Siri or you'll be able to see Alexa with a face of your choice. And that might make it a little bit more relatable. There is the same old concern being raised about whether this could be misused to create deep fakes or famous people. And whilst definitely that could be done, I think there are other technologies, real video deepfake technologies that actually work on video content and just change the face. And those are more believable, better animated. And so in the fullness of time, I don't think this would be the best thing that you could use, the best technology for creating deep fakes. However, there may be some people who are a little bit unfamiliar with AI technology, and so it's still possible that perhaps there will be some people who can be fooled. Either way, it's an interesting development. Suno AI v3 will make music creation accessible to everyone. It's now quite striking just how far AI has come in just a couple of years. Of course, the questions about AI were that it would come in and take all these jobs, these menial jobs from humans. But what has been the most surprising, I think, to me and perhaps others, is its ability to create art. So, of course, we've seen what it can do with Midjourney. And yes, there are those questions about whether it's true art or whatever. But now, its ability to create music, create actual whole music tracks, from the music to the sound to lyrics, has just become brilliant. And one of the best programs that I've seen is something called Suno AI. Now, Suno AI, it's in its V3 version, and it was recently released, and it's just brilliant in its capabilities because you can set a genre for it, a type of music, you can tell it the mood, and it will put together a tune with if you want, a singer or singers, and it sounds very believable, and it sounds amazing, really. So let's take a look at the website here. What we can see is a series of tracks that other people have created using Suno, and they've been upvoted because of how popular they are. So this person requested electro swing, twisted, enchanting, dark, energetic, groovy, sad, sweet vocal. Let's have a little listen.
Step one, gotta fake a smile. Pretend everything's fine for a while. Hide those tears, keep them deep inside. Suppress the pain, bury it with pride.
Yeah, the lyrics.
Step two, drown it all in booze. Liquid courage, it's the path we choose. Oh, happiness is just a game we play. In this twisted world, it's the only way. Put on a show, dance in the dark. Follow the steps, leave your soul apart. Step three, find someone to blame.
Russian roots reggae. Okay.
Бесшумный как ветер шепчет, словно река пенится волнами. Звуки в моих мыслях вечно лепечут, словно музыка в сердцах людей. С легким шепотом утреннего зефира, с пронзительным шепотом вечернего мира.
What we can see there is a Russian music track that is Russian lyrics, but it's reggae as well. And it's quite surprising to me. I admit I don't know too much about Russian music. The Russian music I've heard has normally been dance tracks or that Eastern European hard rock music. So perhaps there is a Russian reggae scene. It's introduced me to it now through Suno. So it's really quite clever. You can really easily create a track. I've done one for myself for the Handy Tips Guide. I'm trying to work and create another one. So let me play a little something that I've created. I wanted to create a jingle to reflect the Handy Tips Guide, its goal to reach the future. And I wanted it to be reflective of the developments of humankind. So let me see if I can bring that up for you.
And together, we're on the rise, tech advancements shining in our eyes every day. We're moving faster, working together for a bright future. Yeah, swipe the tap, we're connected now, sharing knowledge from every town, from the mountains to the deep sea. Humanity united, reaching for the key. Yeah, reaching for tomorrow, hand in hand. Tech's our guide, we'll understand with every step I'm making through. Handy tips will lead me and you. Tips will lead me and you.
So, what do you think? I'm quite proud of that. And it's not as if I wrote the music. I did give the prompts for the lyrics and the direction. But I think it's so remarkable how Suno was able to take the sentiment that I wanted to convey, and it was able to use that and put some lyrics together. And I like the way it used the parallels of connecting using technology tools and allowing it to connect humanity, which is exactly the message I wanted. And then in terms of the music structure, well, I don't have a music background, but that sounds like a legitimate tune. So it really is something special, something really remarkable. And there is a free trial for everybody. You can create a few tunes every day. I think it's about 4-6 tunes every day. Give it a go and see what you think. But it just makes me wonder, I mean, where's this going to leave humans after this? Are they going to be able to compete? Because anybody now can put together a little album and perhaps release it on Spotify. Is that something you want to do? I'm thinking about it. All right. Did YouTube videos become training data for the AI titans? This is an allegation being put forward by the New York Times in its new report. And it's alleging that OpenAI, Google, and Meta, they all used a variety of different tools to scrape YouTube videos, to transcribe the words, basically, and then use that for training data. And this is a very serious issue, of course, for a number of different reasons. So these tech giants scraping data means that they developed a variety of tools to effectively watch the videos, transcribe the words being said, then take that text and use it for training data to improve the quality of their AI tools, improve the knowledge and the scope of what they know. And this raises a few questions. Firstly, there are the questions about copyright. When people produce content and they share it on YouTube, I believe they maintain copyright to their own work. I should know this because I've created videos myself, but I don't always read the small print, to be honest. But if you're creating your videos and you're putting it online, does that then mean anybody can use it for training data? Now, this has not been really clarified in the law yet, in any country really. And anything that is publicly shareable be publicly used for training data. So we don't know the answers about that, but we do know at this moment in time, it seems a little bit underhand, a little bit shady, because this access to people's work has been used without giving them any sort of, without consulting with people. But that means there's been copyright violations potentially. And it would be good if there was some transparency with this, notifying users if this is going to happen. Now, this also raises the question of data biases, meaning that the types of data, the types of video that are allowed on YouTube are going to influence the AI training. And if the content on YouTube has a natural bias to do with the demands of Google, and what I'm talking about is certain political opinions being either more skewed left-wing, then if those videos are used for training data, that means that training data is going to be more biased as well, perpetuating a cycle of left-wing bias. And so this is a very real risk that you are getting from using this training data. So going forward, there's going to have to be a way for creators to have a say in how their YouTube content is used for AI development. There just has to be better transparency, more openness, and I think this will likely happen. Definitely the question of biases has to be examined, because for anybody who's used Google Gemini or ChatGPT, there is always the issue of perceived biases. And so there has to be safe checks or methods to ensure that training data is not used on a platform that is already biased, so that we can prevent this from becoming worse. Speaking of which, there is a proposed AI law that could impact how companies use training data, specifically forcing them to disclose the AI training that they have used for their technologies. The proposed bill is something called the Generative AI Copyright Disclosure Act, and it would literally force companies to reveal all the stuff that they have used, all the data. So the goal of all of this is potentially to make companies more transparent in how they've obtained their data, protect the copyright of different agencies, companies, individuals, newspapers, media, all of that. And it might potentially mean that big tech will start having to license out the information that they use for training data. And why not? Why not pay instead of getting it all for free? Now, this is a story that has got me scratching my head and excited at the same time. And it's the fact that the moon is to get its own time zone. Yeah. And it's apparently going to be called CLT. It's been developed by NASA, and it's going to be developed in partnership with some of the other nations. So let's break this down. Let's look at why this all is. Over the next coming years, the next 10, 20 years, there are many different planned missions to the moon, not just from the US, but other countries like Russia, China, India, Japan, and South Korea. And with all this movement, with all this action on the moon, it's been decided by, I guess, scientists and NASA that it's important for all these different nations to be able to communicate properly whilst they're on the moon. And so they have decided that there should be a clear way of doing this, a time zone for everyone. The first question that I had is, why not use the Earth time, GMT? And it's because of this. And let me make it clear, my science understanding is limited on this, so if you can make it any clearer to me, that would be helpful. But my understanding is this. On the Earth, an Earth day is 24 hours. And the most accurate way of measuring an Earth day is with something called an atomic clock. And part of the way it works is by using or measuring gravity. If you were to use this atomic clock on the moon, it would go slightly out of sync. And this is because of the gravity on the moon being slightly different. That's why when you see people jumping on the moon, like Neil Armstrong, they're able to jump really high. And this different gravity level would affect the atomic clock. It would mean that time being measured on the moon by an atomic clock goes slightly out of sync. So it is thought that a new system should be created. Timekeeping on the moon is going to be so important because the people who are working there, they are normally going to be involved in research missions, creating tasks, experimenting, all sorts of things. So it's important that their timekeeping is accurate, and if they're going to be comparing their results with other people from different countries, their results have to be accurate as well. So very important that the timekeeping is spot on for everybody. Eventually, there's going to be bases built on the moon where astronauts, or whatever they're called, are going to be living there. And it's going to be important for them to have some kind of measure of time. Now, time, as we understand the day, is based on the Earth, Sun, Moon cycle. That doesn't work on the moon because a day on the moon, the time it takes for the moon to spin around 360 degrees, is approximately 29 and a half days. And so by working off Earth hours, that could be confusing for the people who are living on the moon. Why can't the time on Earth be sent to the moon? Which it could be, but there would be delays, and perhaps it might go out of sync, and it might not be strictly accurate. But that might not be the best way to measure time on the moon, by getting its time by receiving it from a signal from planet Earth. So what NASA has decided is that because of all these reasons, being able to coordinate these different nations, being able to make life easier for the people who are living on the moon, and being able to make time more accurate for the people who are living on the moon, a new time zone is needed. And so they're currently in the process of working out how it's going to work and what it should be. So I hope I've explained it properly to you. I hope I understand it. But if I don't, please let me know. So it will be interesting to see what the effect of the moon having its own time zone is, if it's actually needed, or if people will eventually revert back to Earth time. And it also raises the question for the distant future, which is if Elon Musk's plan to get people to planet Mars is successful, will that then have its own time zone? It gets your brain wondering when you think that not long from now, there are actually going to be people living on the moon for a period of time. So, what are these people? Is there going to be a name for them? Us, whilst we're on Earth, we're called Earthlings. We know people who live on Mars or come from Mars are called Martians. What are people from the moon called? Now, I've heard the word Moonans, but I don't think that sounds very good. It sounds quite silly. So I've been reading up and found a couple of other names. Selenians, from the Greek moon goddess. I've never heard of that Greek goddess, actually. I know a few of them, but not her. Mooners, I don't know. Others are thinking just lunar inhabitants, but again, I think the moon, residents of the moon need a special name. So the one I've come up with, if it's not already been decided, is an abbreviation of Lunarians, and it's Lunans. People from the moon who live on the moon are called Lunans. What do you think? Just a quick one, this one, but I feel it's really important and worth talking about. There is an AI blood test that can detect early stages of pancreatic cancer. So this story has been reported by Daily Mail, and it is about a US citizen, Diane Ballon, who's currently 62. She had a blood test with a company called Molecular U, and what they did was they analyzed her blood and they check it for a series of different biomarkers, and they found that she had the very early stages of pancreatic cancer. Now, pancreatic cancer is very serious because it can prove to be so fatal, and early detection so important. What this blood test did was it was able to identify the early stages of pancreatic cancer in a way that the standard blood test that would happen at a normal US hospital would not. And it meant that she was able to go and have surgery to have the early tumors removed from her body. And effectively, this saved her life. And I think this is such a remarkable, such an interesting way of how AI has been used, because we are looking for AI. We are all looking for a cure, as in a society is all looking for a cure for cancer. But yes, we would like a cure for cancer, but here's a way for AI to actually find a solution, to actually be able to detect early cancer so that early treatment can be given, and then the cancer can never develop into something that can prove fatal. This is a really good, positive, happy story. I'm happy for this lady. I'm happy for her family. Here's a bit of a lighter story. Boston Dynamics, the company behind those robot dogs, it's put together another little video, and it features its robot dog called Spot and another version of it. So let me quickly show you what that looks like. So you get the idea from that. Now, the interesting thing to note there, what is that? Is it just another dancing robot video? Is that a new robot? And the actual fact of the matter is, it's exactly the same robot. You've got the original Spot robot, which has got 4 legs and a 5th appendage, which it uses like this, like a claw to pick up items. And then you've got another version of it, and the only difference is it has a skin on it or a costume on it that makes it look like a dog. And so it's exactly the same robot. You've got the one on the left and the one on the right. Let me quickly bring that up on screen so you can see. both exactly the same. But what is the difference between them? The difference is one looks cuter than the other. One looks like an animal and the other just looks like a robot. And I think this is so interesting because going back to the Figure 01 robot, where you've got this cold clinical robot that is moving like that, and the people behind it, they've tried to humanize it by giving it a human voice. But what's really going to make it human is if it's got a human face. And here, with this type of animal, or with this type of robot, what makes it more relatable to humans is if it's made more, not anthropomorphic, zoomorphic, which is more animal-like. And so it's got dog-like characteristics, a dog-like face, dog-like movement with the swishing tail. And this is going to be key in the future to make humans accept robots, make them more comfortable with them. And it reminds me of a story of, they weren't robots, but they were like puppet robots, robot toys that were used in an old people's home, people who have dementia. And they were given to these old people to play with. And apparently the old people related to them very nicely. They were stroking them. They felt comfortable with them. And so it does reveal something about the human psyche and about the way that robots can be integrated into our society going forward. Lastly, have you been watching the Fallout TV show? Now, it is a video game adaptation made into a TV series by Amazon Prime Video. And it apparently is doing really well. It's been getting good reviews. It's been getting good viewers, a good amount of people watching it. I've watched it all. With video games, there is an almost love-hate relationship with adaptations. And this is because people who play games, they love the games that they love. You know, they spend so much time in the game, in the world. And the idea of it being adapted into a movie or a TV series, it's a way of confirming their interest, of their love, and legitimizing it and sharing it with a wider audience. But the hate part comes from the fact that these adaptations, they never quite live up to their potential. So with any adaptation, there is the fear that justice might not be done, maybe because the budget is not high enough, or that the writing is not suitable, or that the story is updated for modern audiences and it loses some of what made the original great, or that the lore is disrespected. All these concerns are concerns of people who are fans of video games. But what Fallout TV has done, a TV series I should say, has done, is it's accurately recreated the world of the game and told it in its own new story. I've watched it all, I've enjoyed it, and I don't know if it's your thing, but if it is, give it a try.
Everyone wants to save the world.
Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the future.